the shoulders for the burdens I'm bearing. Broke down and pulling over by the wayside. Was never made for this type of way, so I throw my hands up and my load gets lighter. I throw my hands up and then burn like fire. Float up to heaven like the smoke in the air. I flip my worries in the prayer, leave them right there.
Just lay it down, it's not your fight. Don't worry, it'll be alright. Don't worry, it will make your heavy life. Don't worry at all, worry at all. This love is always right on time. Right on time. Yeah. I know your problems seem God-sized. If you can see them through God's eyes, take a look, see. If you can only see them through God's eyes, yeah. I know your problems seem God-sized. If you can see them through God's eyes, take a look, see. Yeah, he's right on time, right on time. Just lay it down, it's not your fight. Don't worry, it'll be alright, alright. Don't worry, it will make your heavy life. Don't worry at all, this love is always right. Don't worry at all, this love is always right on time.
You told me I'm not who I used to be. I'm not who I used to be anymore. And you said I can leave my heart on my sleeve, that for everyone to see. You, Lord, all of the things, all of the things, all of the things that I used to hide are gone away, faded away, and I'm changed from the inside out. You're turning my whole world me tell you, oh my friends, about this joy I'm living in. Let me take the mic, go on and testify how I was dead and then I came to life. No more living in the dark of night. Now everything's alright. I've been changed. I've been saved. Brand new day. I've been changed. I've been changed. Tell me why would I turn back now? There's no end to the love I found. Future's bright in the
We've noticed something over the years, something that breaks our hearts and that we think breaks the heart of God too. It's no longer the norm that individuals or families have had a positive experience with church, or any experience at all. So many of our neighbors and coworkers and friends and family members don't have any interest in the local church altogether. And we want to change that. Why? Because we believe when it's working right, the local church is the hope of the world. We believe that there really is no organization with as much potential to change hearts and transform lives and empower the next generation and make a lasting difference in the world as the local church. And so with God's help, we want to be a light in what may seem like a dark world. And we want that light to start shining right here in the St. Croix Valley. And if you think you're too far gone, we'd love to be the ones to tell you God will always leave a light on. So whether you've been in church your whole life or have never stepped foot in church before, we're excited to open our doors to you and to welcome you to the place where real people and a real God meet. We're glad that you could be with us today.
Hey, good morning and welcome to Midcurrent Church. My name is Stan. I'm the pastor here, and we're thrilled to have you here. For those of you in the St. Croix Valley area, western Wisconsin, we finally got some beautiful weather, and so we know there are plenty of places that you could be right now, plenty of things you could be enjoying, and so the fact that you're here with us, we're absolutely thrilled. If you're tuning in from somewhere other than western Wisconsin, we trust that you very well may have tons going on as well, and so we're glad to have you joining us from wherever you are today. I'm excited for what's going to take place in here. As always, Brian and the band, as they always do, continue to work really hard to create a space here and an opportunity here for us to meet God in really powerful ways. And so that's what we are prepared to do in the next few minutes here. I'm going to invite you to stand up right now. We're going to sing about the strength and the confidence that we find in God. Your strength, your confidence may be wavering right now. And if that's the case, I got some good news for you. Our God is a firm foundation. He's a rock that we can lean on, that we can depend on, that we can trust in no matter what is going on in our lives, no matter what's standing in our way. So we're going to sing about that confidence we have now. We invite you to open your hearts and to maybe even open your voices here with us today as we sing out and give thanks to our great God. Once again, we're really glad to have you here.
When all I see is the mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadows, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I sing through the night. Oh God, battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is the cross, God, you see the empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, that belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I sing through the night. Oh God, that belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadow, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. And Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadow, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Oh, so when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, battle belongs to you. Oh God, battle belongs to you.
Amen. Hey, go ahead and have a seat real quick. Thanks to Brian and the band for leading us so far with these songs for us to worship. We're going to continue in our worship still here today. But what we're going to do is we're going to take time now to celebrate together what in the church we refer to as the Lord's Supper. And this isn't a pause. This isn't a stop from the worship that we express to God. This is all a part of it as we come and do together all as a church something that Jesus instructed all Jesus followers to do. On that night, he was betrayed, right? For those of you who know the story, he gathered together with his closest disciples, and he shared in this meal with them and said, hey, every time you guys come together like this, every time you come together to break bread, every time you pour the cup out, he said, do it as a way to remember me. Do this thing as a way to remember who I am and what I have done for you. And so that's what we're going to do now together as we come forward for this Lord's Supper, right? As we take the bread, as we take the cup, we have an opportunity to remember what it is that Jesus has done for us. And we do it through this thing, right? And I often talk about the idea that what we're about to participate here is sometimes considered to be the sacrament of communion, right? And the reality is a sacrament, that's a big, scary word, but I love to break down big, scary words for all of us to help us understand what they mean, to make big, scary words accessible for us. In a sacrament, as in the sacrament of communion or the sacrament of Lord's Supper, a sacrament is simply a visible sign of an invisible grace. And so as we come together for this meal, we have a chance to hold something very physical, something very tangible in our hands, this bread and this cup, and we have an opportunity to let that physical, visible sign be a reminder to us of God's invisible grace that is available to each and every single one of us when we put our hope and when we put our trust and when we put our faith in Him. And for those of you who have said yes, this is open to you, right? This table, this Lord's Supper, communion, it is available to everyone who puts their faith in Jesus, right? You don't have to look right or act right or talk right to come forward for this, right? All you have to do is have had the opportunity to put your faith in Jesus Christ. And if you have, this invitation is for you. Not because you're strong, not because you're the best, not because you're the most spiritual, because you're in a moment right now where you recognize your need to accept that gift of grace that this represents. And so the band's going to continue playing for us as we participate in this together. And all I'm going to invite you to do when you're ready, that we don't have to do this in a certain order. When you're ready, you're going to come down these kind of middle aisles here, and there's a table both to my right and to my left with the communion elements, and you can grab those and return to your seat around the outside and participate in this as it is fitting for you. And the band's going to be playing and continuing to lead us all throughout this whole time together, right? And so the invitation right now is for you to come. Once again, not because you're strong, not because you've got something to show this world, but because you recognize your need for the gracious gift that God has made available to us through His Son, Jesus Christ. All right, so for all who put their faith in Jesus, this invitation is for you.
I'm holding on to faith, 'cause I know you make a way, and I don't always understand, and I don't always get to see, and I won't believe it, I won't believe it. 'Cause you make mountains move, you make giants fall, you use songs of praise to shake prison walls, and I will speak to my fear, yes, I will preach to my doubt, that you were faithful then, and you'll be faithful now. And I'm standing on your word, and calling heaven down to earth. You will find my enemies songs of praise to shake prison walls, and I will speak to my fear. I will preach to my doubt that you will be faithful then, and you will be faithful now. 'Cause you make mountains move, you make giants fall. You use songs of praise to shake prison walls, and I will speak to my fear. Yes, I will preach to my doubt. You were faithful then, you'll be faithful now. That you were faithful then, you'll be faithful now. Let's pray. Lord God, we have seen time and time again the way you have moved the mountains in our lives, the way you have taken down giants that stand in our way. Yet God, honestly, sometimes we forget any and all of that. Remind us today, God, of your faithfulness. Remind us today of your goodness. That you were faithful before, you are faithful today, and you will be faithful tomorrow. God, restore that trust and that faith in our hearts today. And remind us that you are always near. God, we thank you for sending your son, Jesus, to be near to your people and to show your faithfulness. In his name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Midcurrent. My name is PJ, and we are so happy that you have decided to join us here this morning. If you're new here, or you're just visiting, or you're looking for a way to get more involved here at Midcurrent, I would highly encourage you to fill out one of these connection cards that you'll find at the welcome desk, out in the lobby, or in the seat back pocket in front of you. I have told the story many times about how this has affected my life and my family's life. Some of you may know we recently experienced loss in our family, and I'll tell you the amount of love, support, and my personal favorite, food, that has been given to our family over this time all started with us filling out this connection card. So if you're looking to understand more about what's going on here at Midcurrent, or find a community of people that can surround you, this is a tremendous opportunity. If you call Midcurrent home and you attend regularly, or maybe you're a partner here with us, one of the things that you can do to help us spread the mission of Midcurrent, to create places and opportunities for real people and a real God to meet, is by giving back to Midcurrent. There's some really simple ways that you can do that from the collection box in the back. You can text straight from your smartphone. You can automate your giving on the Church Center app. But every one of those dollars goes to spreading the joy and the wonderful things going on here at Midcurrent. We have some exciting things coming up here. Starting on Tuesday, May 23rd, we will have an all-church meeting where we will be introducing the newest team member here at Midcurrent. And we'll be sharing the process that went into finding that person. We'll be sharing their specific role, the bigger implications on the budget here at Midcurrent, and also our faith in how God is working here at Midcurrent. So all attendees and friends of Midcurrent are invited to attend that meeting, and all MC partners will participate in a confirmation vote at that time. The child care will be provided, and it'll be a wonderful event here on Tuesday, May 23rd. The other awesome thing that we have coming up is Saturday, June 10th. Midcurrent is going to head to Feed My Starving Children. It's going to be an amazing, fun opportunity to get together and package meals for hungry families across the world. And that, again, is Saturday, June 10th, 4:30 to 6:15. You can get more information on the Church Center app, and you can also register there as well. So we have some exciting things coming up, not least of which is our very special message from Pastor Sten Carlson.
Hey, we very recently, just this month of May, we celebrated one of the most important days of the year, a day, in my opinion, that all husbands and that all men would be very, very, very wise to keep circled on their calendar every year so that they do not forget this very important day. Who can tell me what day I'm referring to? Close. I was going for fishing opener. Okay, fishing opener. Mother's Day is a great guess. Fishing opener is what I had in mind. Minnesota just had its fishing opener just 2 weekends ago, I believe it was. Wisconsin the weekend before that, if I'm getting the dates right. Now, if you didn't already know this about me, I really, really, really love to fish. Some days I might even say that I was born to fish. Now, that is not necessarily the case for everyone. That might not be the case for you. I get that. Some of you might say, I was born to shop, right? You walk into Target and the cashier knows you by name. Others of you maybe say, I was born to sing, came out of the womb with a microphone in your hand. Some of you say, I was born to golf, right? Some of you guys remember your golf scores way better than your own kid's name, but you can't help it because you say, hey, I was born to golf. Now, as much as I love being out on the golf course on a sunny summer day, I was not born to golf. As I mentioned, and as I think my wife would attest, I was born to fish, okay? I really do love it, whether it's trout fishing around here or whether it's trout fishing, my favorite, out in the mountains of Wyoming or Montana, or whether it's bass fishing on one of Minnesota's 10,000 lakes. I truly can't get enough of it, okay? But that is somewhat beside the point today. My intention today is not to, spend 30 minutes with you talking about, how much I love to fish, or by, showing you pictures of all the greatest fish that I've ever caught in my life. That's not the goal. The only reason I bring any of this up is because some of the moments that set the entire Jesus movement into motion centuries ago, they began with a bunch of fishermen, okay? Now, you may or may not like to fish. You may or may not say, I was born to fish. But what I do know is this, that Jesus calls every one of his followers to fish. Okay? Not for bass, or not for walleye, or not for northern pike, or for trout, but to fish for something different. And this morning, I want to help all of us, I want to help you discover just what it is. And so we are going to turn to the New Testament book of Mark, chapter 1. I'm going to begin reading for you here in verse 16. It says this: One day as Jesus was walking along the shore of the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew throwing a net into the water, for they fished for a living. I knew I liked these guys, man. Sounds like a great gig, okay? Jesus called out to them, come and follow me, and I will show you how to fish for what? To fish for people. And get this, they left their nets at once and followed him. A little further up the shore, it says, Jesus saw Zebedee's sons, James and John, in a boat repairing their nets. And he called them at once, and they also followed him, leaving their father Zebedee in the boat with all of the hired men. Okay? Now, up until this point, you got to understand this in the whole Jesus movement. Up until this point, Jesus has a total of like 0 followers, right? Christianity has 0 converts at the time, okay? And all of that changes right here in this passage. He invites 4 men, Simon, Andrew, James, and John, to become his first what? Disciples, to become his first followers. And Jesus is up front with them. He tells them what he wants them to do. He lays all of his cards out on the table for them, and he says to them, hey, fellas, follow me, and I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you how to do something. Do what? They may have been wondering. Yeah, you might think that he'd say, and maybe they did too, but you might think he'd say, hey, follow me, and I'm going to show you how to be a better person. Follow me, and I'm gonna show you how to be a better mom or a better dad or a better wife or a better husband or a better friend. You might have think he would say, follow me, and I'm gonna show you how to be more spiritual and to be more holy. Or you maybe think he said, follow me, and I'm gonna show you how to be more disciplined. He doesn't say any of that. Instead, he says, come follow me, and I will show you how to fish for people. We have to understand, Midcurrent, that Jesus calls his first followers to learn how to fish for people. Now, honestly, it's a strange sounding request. I get it, right? And so their response, this is a strange thing, going fishing for people, that sounds weird. And so their response is somewhat surprising to me. Verse 18 says, at once, these professional fishermen, they left their nets. I mean, that means they left their livelihood, they left their career, they left everything that they had ever known, and they followed Jesus to fish for people. Why would they do that? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone at a moment's notice just hang it all up and follow after this man? Because it wasn't just the two of them to start. At verse 20, it said, we read it, James and John do the same thing. Boom, see you, Dad. We're going with this guy. He's teaching us how to fish for people, right? They leave their dad in the boat to mend the nets on his own. Again, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm asking myself, why? Why trade in what they were so quickly? Why leave behind everything that they had ever known and everything that they had ever worked so hard for? It's a great question. Why? It's a great question, and truthfully, based on what we're just reading here, it's one that Mark, he doesn't really give us any clues about. He just says, Jesus said, follow me, and they did. So we don't have any clues based on what Mark says, but lucky for us, one of the other what we call gospel accounts does. Besides Mark, there's three others who write these gospel accounts, right? Three other guys who just lived during the days that Jesus lived, and they wrote about what they saw and experienced. Okay, there's three others, and all of them actually, they share the same stories more or less, just from a slightly different perspective. Okay, and in this case, the account written by Luke, we just read what Mark observed and wrote down for us. In this case, the account written by Luke, another guy, an eyewitness to all this stuff, his account gives us some more information, right? From his perspective, we get some more information on what might make these guys throw everything away to follow Jesus and to start fishing for people. Okay, so we're going to turn to the next book in the Bible, to the gospel account of Luke, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. I want to read this for you. Look at what it says. Same story, told from a different point of view, written down by Luke, is what says this. One day as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. And he noticed two empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. And so he sat in the boat and he taught the crowds from there. And when he finished speaking, he said to Simon, now go out where it is deeper and let your nets down to catch some fish. Same story, different perspective. Now, I did some reading on this kind of request of Jesus's, right, to send them out again. I did some reading, and what's interesting is that what Jesus is asking these professional, fishermen to do at this moment here, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I mean, it was horrible advice for these professional fishermen. First of all, the prime fishing hours, it was nighttime in this region. It was nighttime when the fish rise to the surface to feed. Those prime time fishing hours had just concluded. Okay, that's why these guys are on the shores, washing and mending their nets and about to call it quits for the day. Second, when it comes to net fishing in the Sea of Galilee, the best fishing we know from historical records was done in the shallow waters. And Jesus, so it's the nighttime fishing is over. That's the good time. And Jesus is calling them to go back out anyway. And he's calling them and telling them to push out into the deeper water, where any experienced fisherman in that area would know, kind of like, good luck. I mean, that's not where the fish are biting, but okay. So I wish the Bible recorded Simon's thoughts here. I got to think he's thinking to himself, like, Jesus, why don't you stick to the preaching, and why don't you let us handle the fishing? Okay, but this would be like me going to Tiger Woods. Like, hey man, I noticed your golf game. If you keep your elbow in a little bit while you're putting, Tiger, I think it's like the same deal, right? This is the kind of thing I imagine Simon thinking. And actually, verse 5, Simon does speak up. He's a master, Simon replied. He says, we worked hard all last night. When the fishing is good, he says, Jesus, we worked hard all last night, and we didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, he says, if you say so, I'll let down the nets again. Now, I want you to take out your imaginary highlighter pen and circle and highlight the words, but if you say so. We're going to come back to those in just a second. For now, look at what happens next, okay? Simon said, all right, we'll do it. And it says this, at this time, morning hours, deeper water. There ain't no fish out there. Here's what it says. At this time, their nets were so full of fish that they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. And when Simon Peter realized what happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh, Lord, please leave me. I'm too much of a sinner to be around you." Okay, now as someone who likes to catch fish a lot and likes to catch a lot of fish, this response seems crazy to me. Like, you'd think that Simon would want to hang on to Jesus. He's a fish magnet, right? He's a fish finder. He's the first century, version of the newest bass tracker technology. Why tell him to leave you alone? This is the best thing you could have asked for. But I think Simon realizes all of a sudden that Jesus, this one in the boat, I think he realized he is much, much, much more than just a fish finder. Simon realizes in this moment that he is in the presence of the divine. Look what it says. For he was awestruck. He was awestruck by the number of fish that he had caught, as were the others with him, his partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee. They were also amazed. This is not supposed to happen, not now and not here. Jesus replied to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed him. Okay? See, Luke, same story, different perspective. Luke has filled in some of the blanks here about why they would do this. And now that he has, we can see now. I can understand why these guys were so ready and were so willing to leave everything at a moment's notice and follow Jesus. Jesus just flexed his divine muscles. He just gave them a sneak peek into his majesty. He just showed them that he was so much more than a good teacher and a good guy. And all of a sudden they realized, okay, this dude is the real deal. And so they followed him. And now that they have said yes, we can't miss this. Now that they have said yes, Jesus said, "Follow me." Now that they've said yes to this invitation, Jesus is letting them know right at the very beginning. He's letting let all these guys know that he has more in store for their lives. He's calling them to something greater, to fish for something so much grander than just perch and panfish. Jesus says that from now on, he wants them to fish for people. He is inviting them. He's inviting them to join him in spreading the good news that God has come, that the Messiah has arrived, that forgiveness is available, that freedom is possible, that those who are far from God can come near. Right? Fishing for people. This was his invitation to them. Fishing for people is ultimately, it's just inviting them. It's inviting others to follow Jesus too, and to have their lives and to have their destinies changed forever. Fishing for people is presenting Jesus to people through our words and through our actions and through our deeds. This is what Jesus called his followers to do. It's something we got to understand. It's something so important that we need to know about being a follower of Jesus. It's very simple, friends. Followers fish. Followers fish. Maybe you're thinking, hey, I'll pass. I'm not a fisher person. You might be going, remember, I was not born to fish. You might be going, hey, you know what? I dig Jesus. You know, I believe in him. I love him. I'm following him to the best of my ability. But I don't want to do anything close to having to talk to anybody about him. You might be thinking like, hey, my name's not Billy Graham. I didn't go to seminary. I'm not very extroverted. I don't even really know the Bible that well. You might be saying, fishing for people. I'm going to leave that to you, Stan. Fishing for people, I'm gonna leave that for someone else. It's easy for us to think that way. I get it. But I got to be honest with you. If that's you, don't get me wrong. I understand. I understand the hesitation, like, I'm good with Jesus, but only this part, not that. I get it. But I got to be honest with you. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that Simon and Andrew and James and John and all the others didn't respond this way. At the end of the day, we are here today because they went fishing for people, right? You might be sitting here today because someone went fishing for you. And now your life has been changed by God. You will be in heaven someday because someone put their objections away. Someone put their hesitations away. Someone put their concerns away and their insecurities away, and they fished for you. So here's a question for you. Here's a question for you. As you think about your own story and what it is that brought you to the place that you are here today, here's a question. Would you do for someone else what someone else did for you? Someone else put their objections away and they fished for you. So would you do for someone else what someone else did for you? Okay, those first disciples, common, ordinary, working class, uneducated guys, that's what they were. Okay, that they allowed Jesus to make them, to turn them into something that they were not. Fishermen for people, influencers of others. And as you read through the Gospels, these accounts that these four guys wrote for us, you see they were terrible at fishing at first. But they kept at it. They allowed Jesus to teach them to fish for people. And so the question we got to ask ourselves, are we going to allow Jesus to teach us? Are we going to allow Jesus to teach us to fish? Are we? Are you? Now, as much as I kind of ask the question, I hate to have to be the bearer of bad news here, but it's not really an option. It's not really an option, right? Part of following Jesus is fishing for others. He doesn't say, follow me and you're all set. He doesn't say, hey, follow me and then go to church every now and again. He doesn't say, hey, follow me and I promise I'll make your life all better. No, he says, follow me and I will teach you how to do something. Follow me and I will teach you how to fish for people. We've got to understand that followers fish. It's part of it's a package deal, friends. If we consider ourselves followers of Jesus, we've said yes to his invitation, then part of our responsibility is to learn how and to commit ourselves to fishing for people because followers fish. It's what we do. Now, it might be a little alarming, maybe a little surprising, right? And I know that fishing for people wasn't necessarily on your radar, right? When you said yes to Jesus, I know that fishing for other people may not have been on your radar when you first opened your life to Jesus. My guess is that you were like so many people when you opened your life to Jesus. Your life was a mess. Your sins were, you're too great. And so you turned to Jesus to forgive you, to fill the emptiness, right? To bridge the gap, to reserve your spot in heaven when you die, right? It is true that we often come to Jesus initially out of purely selfish motives. We're going, God, Jesus, help me. Okay? It's true. Sometimes we come out of purely selfish motives, but the good news is that Jesus meets us there in our deepest need, and he makes us new. He transforms our lives. He adopts us into the family. And the reality is the benefits of this decision, the benefits are a mile long. But we can't lose sight of the fact that there are also responsibilities, and Jesus is real clear about one of them right from the beginning. Followers fish. Followers have a different mindset, right? Here's the deal. Here's the mindset. Followers of Jesus, right? They ultimately say yes when they would rather say no. Followers, that's the mindset they have. They say yes when ultimately they would rather say no. Remember what I asked you to mentally highlight earlier? It came right out of Luke chapter 5. It's what Simon Peter said to Jesus in the boat when Jesus said, yeah, go out on the other side. What did Simon say? He said, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then he said, but if you say so. But if you say so. Okay? That's what followers say. That's what we should be saying. Jesus, I don't really feel like it, but if you say so. Jesus, I don't really feel like, like staying sexually pure before I get married, but if you say so, I will. Right? Jesus, I don't really feel like giving back 10% to you and to your church and to your work in the world, but if you say so, I will. Jesus, I don't really feel like praying and studying and reading your word every day. But if you say so, if you think that's what's best, then I will. Jesus, I don't really feel like fishing for people. I know I have friends, and I know I have family members, and I know I have coworkers, and I know I have neighbors and others who are far from God and who are facing an eternity separated from you, but I feel awkward, right? I'm afraid of how people might react, so I don't really feel like it, but if you say so, then I will. It's the mindset that followers have. Followers fish, friends. And so let me finish but by helping us, by helping you to know what fishing for people looks like. Okay? It sounds simple enough in some ways, to do this work of modeling for, others that, the life of Jesus, right? It sounds simple enough. The problem is we've made it a lot harder than it needs to be, which is why I think so many people are going, I'll pass, right? We've made it a lot harder than it needs to be. Here's the deal. We've made fishing for people way too complex, and we've made it, hear this, we've made fishing for people, we've made it way too confrontational. You got to understand this. Jesus didn't say, come follow me, and I'll show you how to hunt for people. He didn't say that, right? There's a huge difference. Hunting is confrontational. I mean, hunting is aggressive, right? Fishing is more gentle, right? Fishing is attractional. Fishing is subtle. Hunters track down their prey. Fishermen get the fish to come to them. Here, little fishy, right? You reel them, they get them to come right up to you. I'll never forget, we have to understand this. It is a different, he didn't say hunt, he said fish. It's that you're getting them to come to you. And I'll never forget what my friend Aaron taught me. Not about fishing for people, but about fishing for fish. That helps me understand what it's like to fish for people. My friend Aaron taught me years ago when I was learning how to fly fish. He was teaching me how to tie your fly onto your fly line with the proper knot. And if you're a fisherman, you might know this. You wrap around 8 times, you feed the line back through the bottom hole, then through the hole in the top, and you cinch it tight. Right? And now these days, with one arm behind my back, my eyes closed, I could tie that knot anytime. But when I was first learning how to do this deal years and years ago, my big fat fingers could not get it down. Okay, so it was hard enough as it was just standing, on the side of the river. But then when you're standing in the middle of a swift moving river with wind, blowing in your face, man, it did not make it any bit easier. And I would get way too frustrated trying to get that deal there. All my buddies around me catching fish, and I just said, I'm not doing this knot anymore. And so what I did, I just settled to kind of take all the line and just kind of wrap it up and cinch it tight. I'm going, okay, that thing's attached. We're good to go, right? I thought that ought to do it, right? Just get it tight. And so that's what I did. And then we went fishing. And after a while, buddies are catching fish. I'm catching nothing. And my buddy Aaron, I expressed to him, I'm like, dude, what is happening here? I can't catch it. I couldn't catch a cold, right? I couldn't do anything. And so he asked me, so how's that knot coming that I was teaching you to tie? And I told him, I was like, wow, it was kind of a little challenging, but I told him, I'm not worried about it because I tied a good strong knot. I was kind of I'm not worried, Aaron. That fly ain't going anywhere. Not a problem. And he came and examined, and he was not impressed at all with the very tight knot that I had tied. And he went on to explain to me that the knot was not tied. The knot wasn't, meant to just keep the fly attached. That wasn't its only purpose. But he said the knot had a lot more to do with the presentation of the fly on the top water. And he was teaching me in that moment that the presentation of the fly was everything. The fly had to sit on top of the water, and it had to float in a way that looked as attractive and as natural and as realistic as possible to a fish looking up from underneath. He said that the knot mattered. The presentation of that fly mattered. The knot wasn't just meant to keep the fly there. And what I realized is that my knot was, it was tight. That fly wasn't going anywhere, right? But it was just a big, bulky knot that left this giant wake, right? Because, with the hook that was cinched to it, dragging its way through the water with the fly kind of turned cockeyed up on its side, dragging through the water. And so that's what I was doing. That's all. I'm like, knots attached, but all I'm doing is I'm dragging through the water this awkwardly twisted fly that was being pulled it was like a water skiing fly, leaving this huge wake. It was the exact opposite of realistic and attractive. And no fish looking at that thing skiing up there, no fish would go near it. And wouldn't you know, my buddy Aaron, he comes over, he says, let me see that deal. He, in like a tenth of a second, ties the right knot, right? It was tight, and it was slim, and it was attached properly. And all of a sudden, the presentation of my fly was far more attractive and far more natural. And the trout respond instantly. Folks, the same is true when it comes to fishing for people. Presentation matters. Okay? And I'm not talking about entertainment presentations. I'm talking about the way that we present our lives. Okay? I'm talking about the way that we present our lives, how attractive our lives are. And you got to be careful again here at what I did not say. I didn't say how attractive our looks. I did not say how attractive our lifestyles, right? I'm asking you how attractive are our lives. You have to ask yourself, as a follower of Jesus, if I'm supposed to be fishing for people, right? If I'm supposed to be getting their attention, how attractive is my life? How attractive is my presentation of a life that's following Jesus, right? How attractive is the life that I demonstrate for others and then say, yeah, you ought to try this too? How attractive is it? You have to continually ask yourself and evaluate. How evident in me is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness and self-control. How evident is that stuff in my life so that people would notice? Folks, when it comes to fishing for people, right, you got to tie the right knot. Okay? Otherwise, here's the deal. People are watching you. Okay, trust me, they're watching you. And they're going to say, well, you're standing in the river, yes, and you look like you're kind of going through the motions, but your fly is upside down and it's water skiing again behind the big wad of tangled line. And when that's what they see in us, they're going, I'm not interested. You kind of look the part, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing. And then they say, no thanks. We got to understand that presentation matters. So ask yourself today. Ask yourself this week. Ask yourself in the office. Ask yourself around town. How am I presenting to the world? How am I presenting to the world a life that is changed and that is transformed by Jesus? What do people see in me? And is it attractive? There's one last important piece that I need to teach you here about fishing, and this is going to be the most brilliant part from a seasoned fisherman. This will be the most brilliant part of what I have to teach you this morning. You ready for it? Here it is. Okay? If you want to catch fish, you actually have to go fishing. See that? If you want to catch fish, you actually have to go fishing. Okay? Let me do a little poll here. Raise your hand for me if you've ever caught a fish. I see some hands going up. Now, of those people who have caught a fish, how many of you caught that fish when you weren't fishing? Okay, none. Okay? None. If you want to catch a fish, if you want to catch people, if you want to go fishing for people, you actually have to go out and do it. You have to be intentional with the life you're living. It starts with you choosing every day to live an attractive life of real love, of real joy, of real peace, in all of that, right? You got to start there, but it goes beyond that, right? And so what I want to suggest to you this morning is this, that fishing for people, right? It's ultimately choosing to invest in people, to be intentional about rubbing shoulders with people around you, especially that maybe don't know Jesus, right? If you're gonna go fishing for people, you got to start. You got to do that. You got to go fishing. So it means, here's a couple things. It means you got to pray for others. Maybe if you got to be intentional about it, it means you got to pray for others. Pray for your neighbors or your coworkers. It means you have to genuinely care about them. Right? People are attracted. People are won to Christ by our love and by our care and by our interest and by our compassion for them, not by our arguments with them, right? And so you have to take time. If you're going to be intentional to make sure that you are actually going fishing, you got to take time to get to know your neighbor, your coworker who's far from God. You got to walk the 30 steps across the yard to the end of the driveway or to the other cubicle, right, to initiate conversation, right? You have to listen to their stories. You have to find out what their interests are and what their needs are. You have to find out what their hurts are and what their hopes are, and you have to find common ground with them, common ground with the people in your sphere of influence. I love what the Apostle Paul says with words that are recorded in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Paul says, yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything that I can to save some. I do everything to spread the good news and to share in its blessing. Friends, fishing for people, it's intentionally investing into people. It's not beating them over the head with the Bible. It's not pointing out every spot in their life where they've done it right and where they've done it wrong. It's loving them, and it's getting to know them, and it's letting the attractiveness of your life that has been changed by Jesus do all of the talking for you, right? For those of you who are Jesus followers, I know this kind of stuff can be scary, okay? But it's what followers of Jesus do. We fish. We learn how to do it. We have a mindset that says to Jesus, I'm not really sure if I'm up for it, but if you say so. then I will. Believe it or not, friends, you can fish for people, okay? You are a prime candidate. You have a story, and you have influence, and there has never been, nor will there be anyone just like you are. And there is someone out there who needs someone just like you to fish for them. And so the question is, will you do for them what someone else did for you? Let me pray. God, it's all too easy to feel like this group of uneducated, fishermen, right? Just kind of like, man, who are we're not the cream of the God. It's easy to feel like, man, who am I? Why in the world would you choose us, God? But what an amazing picture to witness. That God, you started with them, and it's gone on down the line to us, God. That when we say yes to you, you invited us to join you, God, to learn from you, to help other people experience you as well. God, it's an amazing privilege that we get a chance to be a part of it, God. So for all of us here, God, and there may be someone here who has not yet said yes to you, and that's great. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad that they're open to hearing more about you and to learning from you. God, would you continue to be near to them, God? But for those of us who have said yes, God, for those of us that have raised our hand, for those of us who are following you, I pray that you would give us the courage, God. I pray that you would give us the confidence to be intentional about how we invest into the people in our sphere of influence every day. God, little by little, we don't have to become experts tomorrow, but little by little, would you help us to become fishermen and fisherwomen for people so that others may come to know of the good news of your Son, Jesus Christ. We pray all these things in his name today. Amen. Hey, thanks so much for being here. It's always a thrill to be together. And, man, we hope you take a look at all the awesome stuff that's happening this week, not only with our all-church meeting, a chance to meet Jonathan, but our opportunity to be together at Feed My Starving Children as the summer hits and officially kicks off, or maybe unofficially kicks off next week over Memorial Day weekend. We'd be glad to have you spend it here with us, 9 a.m. and 10:30. We'll see you then. God bless.